in thinking about reorganization, what are some key indicators that it's time to reorg? Whether you're talking about a church or another organization, a nonprofit, whatever. What are some key times in the life cycle of an organization where it's a good time?
Tammy, jump in.
Well, I feel like most of my life has been in the reorganization zone for the past 30 years, just being in industries that are always going through dramatic change. And I think that there's always a significant shift occurs. First of all, there may be a change in personnel or people. And so you get new leadership with new vision, and they just see the path differently than maybe what currently exists. And so that'll stimulate change. Sometimes it's pain, where things are just not working the way that they should, and it really becomes unbearable, and you have to find a new way. Like you're really on the verge of some type of crisis. And then in other ways, it might be that there's some kind of new technology or there's information that has been learned or discovered, and it's forcing you to think differently about the organization and how you get things done.
Yeah, and I would say in smaller organizations, many times you don't feel the need to reorg because it doesn't seem like that big of a deal. But I would suggest just the opposite. The smaller you are, sometimes the more you need to have this moment to stop and celebrate, to stop and pause, to stop and remember, to stop and say, all right, we've now hit this new plateau. We got to sort of start over. We got to reorg. We got to move some people around. But many times smaller, you feel like it's not that big of a deal, but it actually is a bigger deal when you're smaller. In larger organizations, that doesn't radiate or transfer as much out to the people on the front lines. So the other, I would agree, like on the talent side, many times you need to reorg when you've crested. And a leader's responsibility, I think, is to actually know when that is and to call it out and say, hey, either I may have been outgrown by the position or the division, or the people that are working for me may have been outgrown by the position. Mm-hmm. And those are really hard conversations. Nobody wants to actually acknowledge that they've been outgrown by a position. But I think that's a sign of a really mature leader, is when you can do that, or at least open yourself up to that conversation.
Well, I think you hit on two things, Brad. The fact that it takes a mature leader to recognize that, but then also that it's important to constantly be reassessing. I mean, pain is certainly one way to change. In fact, a lot of people say, if you don't have that pain, you won't change. But I think breakthrough leaders are always looking, and they're always evaluating, and they're initiating that change to take an organization to a different place.
Okay, so if you're a guy like me, I love change. I have one of those personality types, one of those profiles where if it doesn't change, I get bored and I tend to leave an organization, or I break it sometimes just to restart it or renew it. So tell me, what are some bad reasons? What are some bad reasons to change that sometimes you think sometimes people might reorg when they don't necessarily have to?
It's a good question. I think one of the ways that I've seen it that is not helpful is if I reorg around me being the man or the woman, in the sense that I'm trying to build my own kingdom, but I'm playing it off like, this is all for the organization, this is all for the company, this is all for the church, this is all for the nonprofit. But everybody around me looks at me and says, come on. We all realize this is just simply for you to get more platform, to you to become more of the center of the attention of this organization. So I would say if you've sensed that as a leader, you're going to be the last one many times to know. So you got to have some people around you that will speak in and go, no, this is the wrong direction here. And don't necessarily rely on the people that work for you to tell you that. That's where an advisory board or a board of directors or can help you with that. But I've seen that happen where the reorg simply got rolled out as we're taking new ground, and everybody just looks at each other and says, no, this is just propping you up more.
This is about you. And I'm glad that you said it that way, because I think when you go to reorganize and you ignore the counsel of many, that's really not a good time to reorg. So the more that you can enroll people in what it is you're trying to accomplish and that you lean into that, then what it does is it eliminates self from getting in the way.